Så, välkomna tillbaka till Småbolagsdagarna här i Stockholm. Vi kommer att köra nästa företagspresentation genom Zoom och det är Shape Robotics och det är CEO David Johan Christensen. Varsågod.
Well, thanks a lot. So, as you say, my name is David, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Shape Robotics. So what we do is we do educational robots. So this is our product. It's called Fable. So Fable is a modular robotic robot that you can assemble and build into many different configurations. And it's a system that we sell to educational institutions around the world so that they can teach 21st century skills such as programming, innovation, and creativity. And we have started our subscription for our IPO on Nasdaq First North in Copenhagen. And the subscription, it runs until the 18th of June. So the background for starting Shape Robotics is really all about that the reality of schools have changed. So these kinds of factory jobs that you can see here, those are not the types of skills that you need to teach in the 21st century. So back in the days when schools were the subjects of the schools were defined, this was the kind of jobs that you could expect to get after you came out of schools, but that's no longer the case. These jobs, they are long gone, and that also means that we need to teach our kids new types of skills. There is a global trend at the moment. So 47% of all jobs tasks will be automated by 2034, according to a McKinsey report. So that means that robots and computers and automated systems, they're taking over more and more of the jobs which are out there. And that, of course, also means that the schools, they need to adapt to this new situation. They need to teach the kids new types of skills so that they're able to work with technology, develop technology, and learn to use technology in their everyday life and work. So the solution to this problem is to transform the way that we're teaching. So rather than doing it the old-fashioned way, like you can see here on the left, by pouring or trying to pour information from the teacher into the student's head, then we need to teach in a new way. We need to teach in a much more practical, hands-on, project-based way, where maybe the students, they need to build a new kind of robot, maybe something to address the corona issues. Maybe it's a sterilizing robot, maybe it's a robot to do test for corona or something like that. And then they imagine this problem they imagine a potential solution for it, and then they start to build it, they experiment with it, they show it to their friends, and then they start to think about it. What is it that I have built? And then maybe I could have built something slightly different, something slightly better. They have a deeper understanding of the problem. And that's what we call a learning spiral. So this is really where you are gradually learning something by working practically with it. And this is extremely important, and it's very, very good. And the teachers, they love this way of teaching, but there are also some problems. So first of all, they don't have a lot of time in class. They don't have maybe, a typical lesson is 45 minutes or 90 minutes. So you don't have a lot of hours to sort of dive deep into these kinds of things. Also, they don't have a lot of time for preparing. Another issue for the teachers is that they often don't have the necessary training. So they don't have, they're not very technical. They have, they're passionate about teaching, but not necessarily about technology. And the third issue here is that they also fear this kind of change in the classroom, the structure which is in the classroom, where they're moving away from being the expert that can answer all the questions to becoming more like a teaching assistant or more like a coach for the student that they learn along with. So that was the background for us developing Fable. So Fable is this modular robotic system that you can snap together and build many different kinds of robots, and then you program them, and you can learn a lot in that process. And the system can be used across many subjects and across many different class levels so that the students can gain these very important 21st century skills. And now what I want to do is I want to show you a little video here of how Fable is actually being used. And this is from school in the UK.
We've been able to take things off the screen and make it concrete. And what we found with Fable is it's really, really engaging. especially in a boys' school, the one thing I think we were really missing was the physical programming. And I think we were looking for something that we could not just build once, but something that was modular and that we could put together to create lots of different activities.
Today we programmed Fable to go around an obstacle course, and along that we had to do loads of challenges. So for example, we had to program it to complete a maze.
The boys learned how to get the ball bearing round to the centre by creating different functions. So that was a really fantastic lesson, and the boys came out of it really understanding what a function was, how to create a function.
It's fun because instead of using textbooks and loads of writing, it's more of a way which you can kind of express yourself in teamwork, and you get to use some more technology.
We wanted them to understand that it was equally as good to get something wrong as it was to get something right.
I struggle with it, but when I get going, I think it's a lot more easier and fun to work with.
And then you start seeing their faces light up and they got really hooked onto, well, I can do this, I figured out how to do something.
If you're thinking about getting Fable, I really would recommend it because it's a good addition to your school, because you can actually see your products in real life instead of just on a computer.
So now let me turn a little bit to the company. So the story of Shape Robotics actually started back in 2004, where I was a researcher working in the field of modular robotics and artificial intelligence at the University of Southern Denmark. So Denmark has this very important robotics cluster, which is centered around the University of Southern Denmark, and I was part of that environment there. Then in 2011, I got a new position at the Technical University of Denmark, where we had a research project together with Lego. So all of you probably know Lego, but it's not only a toy company, they're also the leading player within educational robotics. So we spent 3 years doing new products together with them. And one of the many prototypes that we did was the Fable system. And there was a lot of interest for this system, both from schools and other places that wanted to, borrow it or buy it and so forth. So we decided that we should found Shape Robotics in 2015. Then it took a couple of years to move from a research prototype to a product that could be mass produced. So in 2017, we started shipping the robots, initially only to Danish customers. And then the last couple of years has been about scaling up internationally. So Fable is this modular system that you can snap together in many different ways. Some of the modules are passive, just with magnets and plastic parts, and some of them are with motors and batteries and electronics and so forth. And you snap them together, then you build different kinds of robots that you can then program. And here are some examples. So you can build something that can pick up a ball and move it somewhere else, kind of like an industrial robot, or maybe something that throws a ball so you can do a physics experiment, for example. Or maybe you want to build a social robot that waves at you and says hello or something like that, or a crawling robot, a robot for playing soccer, and all these different opportunities you have. And then you program it, and you program it by snapping these sort of puzzle pieces together, that this kind of programming blocks that makes it really easy even for small kids to program the system. It's very much real programming what they're doing, but it's also easy for them to actually learn and understand because it's very, very visual. But you also have the textual programming Python, which is also an option. So this is for high school students, vocational schools. They often use Python instead of the block-based programming to do their programming of the robots. And then you have these eyes. So this is an app that you download on any smartphone that gives the robot expressions, and you can program the expressions, the eyes, and you can also program and read the sensors from the smartphone, for example, the DPS or the touchscreen sensor and so forth. So Fable is really designed for the classroom. So one of the aspects of the system is you can build robots extremely fast. It takes maybe 30 seconds to build a robot and a couple of minutes to clean it up. And that means that it fits extremely well into a classroom environment where you have 45 minutes lessons, for example. Another aspect is that you can use Fable to solve real-world problems. So maybe you want to build welfare technology for the elderly. You build a feeding robot that helps them feed themselves. So you can really work with innovation topics, which is something that the teachers likes a lot. And then it's designed for learning. I think on our website we have more than 100 lessons, which has been made by teachers for the teachers. So there's a lot of didactic content, and the system itself is very robust and reliable, which is really necessary in a classroom. And the last aspect there is that it grows with the user. So you can use it from 3rd grade to high school students, because there are so many different ways you can use it. These are some of our products. So you can see here we have smaller sets for 2-3 students called Fable Go, Fable Explore. But what we typically see that the education institutions are buying is bigger sets, like Megaspace sets, for example, here, which is a little less than 40,000 Danish kroner, and that's enough for up to 36 students. So that would be for a full classroom, and even a bit more than that. The market for education robots is the 4 million schools around the world. The market size in 2019 was $1.3 billion, expected to increase to $3.1 billion by 2025. And education as a whole, there's a spending of $10 trillion by 2030. Of course, we are not alone in this space. So there's a lot of competition in the preschool sector, or the preschool segment, what we call preschool toys. So these are very toy-like robots that you can program. They're really good for the younger students, kindergarten, and also the 1st and 2nd and 3rd grade maybe. But once you are kind of grown out of that, there's very few opportunities. So Vex and Lego Mindstorms and Fable are 3 of the main opportunities. But we really have the sort of competitive advantage that Fable is really quick and simple to use, while something like Mindstorms and Vex is very complex and slow, because you have so many small parts that you need to assemble. So that really limits sort of the how practical it is to use in a classroom. Fable includes a lot of unique technologies, things like the building system, the modular building system, kind of like Lego, where you can snap things together in many ways. The integrated smartphone, you can extend it with your own 3D printable parts. You have a very strong and self-locking magnetic connector system. You can program it in multiple languages, and everything you do is wireless and very easy and flexible. Our traction is that we sold more than 5,000 robots so far, more like 7,000. And more than 500 schools are using Fable around the world. Last year, we had export outside of Denmark of 75%, with an average deal size of 20,000 Danish kroner. And we've been more than able to double our revenue every year. So from 1.3 million Danish kroner to 3.6 to 8 million Danish kroner in 2019. And the way we do that is selling through our resellers. So we have a very extensive network of resellers around the world, as you can see here. Last year, our biggest market was Russia, followed by Denmark, where we are our own reseller, the Netherlands, the US, and Sweden. And of course, there's a lot of growth potential in these countries still. So we are gradually, we are focusing on growing our markets in these areas, and then we're also opening up new areas. For example, in Asia, we are very focused on opening South Korea, and to some extent also Japan in the coming year or so. Our main market activities includes growing our sales channels through the partners, making sure that they are onboarded the right way and they're ready to sell Fable, and then help them by increasing awareness in the key markets, including different marketing activities like competitions, for example. And then we're also testing out new business models, things like subscription on hardware, like a robot as a service model, but also software as a service models that we also including in our business models. There are, of course, other robot companies that we can compare ourselves to, all based out of or have roots in this very strong robotics cluster in Denmark. There's been a couple of acquisitions. Universal Robots was sold for 1.9 billion Danish, and Mobile Industrial Robots was sold for 1.7 billion Danish. There are 2 listed companies on First North. One is Shape Technologies that has a market cap of 160 million, and Odeco that has a market cap of 149 million at the moment. And this is our transaction. So we are going to be listed on Nasdaq First North. The subscription period is now until the 18th of June, with the first day of trading the 25th of June. The total offer size is from 20 to 27 million, with a pre-money valuation of 40 million Danish kroner, and we already have pre-committed subscriptions from cornerstone investors of 18 million Danish kroner. So, and you can see how we expect to use the proceeds: 65% on sales and marketing, something on business infrastructures. That's also things like stock, for example, and outsourcing of production, and then 15% on developing new products. So that was my presentation.
No. All right. Can you hear me now, David?
I can hear you.
Yes. Hello. Thank you.
Hi.
We have a couple of minutes here for some questions. My first question to you is, what are you doing to stay ahead of competition? There's as you've shown us, there's a lot of other alternatives for these kind of let's say educational tools.
So I would say first and foremost, so Fable is very unique in many ways. So there are really no system that is like it. It is to some extent in its own category, and we have been expanding the system continuously. So last year we launched a new product that expanded this platform by introducing new modules, new sets, and so forth. And we are continuously developing new things, and we're also launching a new product now. So we are launching something called Fable Connect, which is a telepresence addition to the Fable system. So that means that, for example, children that are not able to go to school because they have long-term illnesses, maybe their parents are ill and they don't want to send to schools because of Corona, for example, then these children can participate in in normal school activities through this robot. So this is a new addition to Fable system, and it's very unique. I mean, there's no other STEM or sort of a robot that allows you to teach 21st century skills that also allows you to participate in school in this way. So we are doing a lot of R&D to make sure that we stay ahead of the competition.
And your product, is it merely focused on like programming, or is it like, do they have any more educational tools, like let's say math or English and all that?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, if you go to our website, you can see we have 100 different lessons, and some of them are math focused. So some of them are about trigonometry or geometry, or what do you want, and some of them are physics based. So maybe that's Newton's law of motion, or other kinds of physics experiments that you're doing with the robots. And then of course there's some of them which is about programming, and some of them are about innovation, and some of them is about humanities, languages, for example, learning a second language like English or German. Or maybe it's about literature, reading a novel and then building some robots that fits into that story so that you get a deeper understanding of the novel. So it's really, really wide, and there's a lot of different opportunities for teaching many different subjects with Fable. But of course, a lot of them is sort of in the natural science area.
All right, thank you. And can you tell us a little bit more, like, why is this a good time for you to go public with Shape Robotics?
I mean, what we can see is that there's a lot of focus around the world to introduce these kinds of technologies into the classroom. So more and more governments are putting programming, innovation, those kinds of topics and subjects, also in Sweden, it's becoming a mandatory part of the curriculums. So we need to scale up now. We need to make sure that we are ready for what is about to happen in this space, and that's why it's a really good time for us to go public.
Can you give us any numbers of how large your turnover going to be let's say 1 year from now? Like what are you aiming for?
Yeah, so I can tell you about our financial targets. So by 2023, we expect to sell for 55 million Danish kroner, and we expect to have a growth rate of 80% from next year and onwards.
All right. And are there any? Do you have any? What say ideas of looking beyond schools and education with your products?
Yeah. So, for example, this telepresent robot that I told you about, that also has a potential. I mean, actually, it was developed together with a hospital. So it has a medical application. So because many long-term sick children, they are really they are hospitalized, but they cannot sort of be part of school. They cannot be part of social life in general because they need to be isolated. So the robot there has definitely some medical applications, but it also has some consumer applications. So, for example, maybe you're not able to visit your elderly family members. Maybe you're not able to let your kids visit their friends and so forth. And this a robot system like this Fable Connect will actually allow you to do that. And this is just the beginning, because I mean, Fable is a very generic platform. We have started, selling it as an educational programmable robot, and now we have extended it into telepresence robot. But since it's a generic platform, we could extend it into many other types of applications as well in the future. But this is further work, you could say.
Yeah, and if I remember right, you said Russia is your largest market, correct?
That is correct.
But where do you think you will see the largest growth, like these following years, for your products?
I'm really. I think we will see a lot of growth also from the US. There's really a lot of things going on in the US that indicates that we'll see a lot of growth from there. I'm also very hopeful about markets in Asia, like Korea, China, and Japan. We've been visiting several times there, and we really see that the school systems are really geared to take in these kinds of technologies right now. So there's also huge potential there. But really, the growth can come from anywhere. It's really a matter of how ready are the schools, what kind of buying patterns are there in the schools, what kind of pressure are there from the political level, and so forth.
How do you can you give us your point on, like, let's say, the threat from big tech companies that maybe also aiming not maybe for robotics but in education, because it can be only so much a school can take in, so to say. Like, how do you look on that on that perspective?
I mean, we have a really good collaboration, for example, with Microsoft. So you're right that, for example, a company like Microsoft is very focused on education, but a big part of how they do it is through partners. So they want to make sure that, of course, Windows is being used in the schools, and they're using their laptops. And a big part of that is making sure that, Fable works in a great way together with Windows platform. And the same thing goes for Google and Chromebook, for example. So what we are seeing is from companies like Google and Microsoft is really more an invitation to partner up and collaborate than they are trying to compete in this space.
All right, that's all from me, and we wish you the best of luck.
Well, thanks a lot, and remember to subscribe